I'm going to talk about how to add and subtract fractions that have different denominators. We're going to start out with 1/3 plus 4/18. I cannot add these the way that they are. You can only add or subtract fractions if they have the same denominators. So, I'm going to add these and I'm going to do it two different ways. The first way is using the least common denominator, okay? Which is what we did in the previous lesson. We're just taking it a step further. So, two ways I can find the least common denominator is by writing down the multiples, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21 of these two denominators. And then I can see that 18 is the multiple that these two denominators have in common. So my least common denominator is 18. Another way to find least common denominator is the ladder method. I take my two denominators, I put them in a bracket like this, and I see what I can divide both of them by. These are both divisible by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 18 divided by 3 is 6. And I put another bracket here. And 1 and 6 are only divisible by 1. Only both divisible by 1. So what I do now, and I'll use a marker to really illustrate this, is I make an L for least common denominator. And whatever's in the L, I multiply together. 3 times 1 is 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Times 1 is 3. Times 6 is 18. So two different ways of finding the least common denominator. So the next thing I do is I take my two fractions and I find equivalent fractions that have that denominator of 18. So I am now making them into fractions that have the same denominator, and now I will be able to add them because they have the same denominator. So to get from 3 to 18, I multiply by 6. Since I multiplied the top by 6, or bottom by 6, I have to multiply the top by 6. 1 times 6 is 6. Now 18 times 1 is 18, so I multiply the top times 1. Okay, that one is obvious. You can just copy that over. But that's the basic idea. So now I have these two fractions, and I add them together. So 6/18 plus 4/18 equals 10/18. And that is not simplified because these are both even. 10 and 18 are both even. So I divide the top and bottom by 2, and I get 5/9. And that is my answer. That is what 1/3 plus 4/18 is, 5/9. Now I'm going to do this another way using the cross multiplication method, which is very popular among these students because it doesn't involve finding the least common denominator. So I'm going to rewrite my problem. 1/3 plus 4/18. Now what I do is I cross multiply. I multiply this denominator with this numerator. So I get 18 times 1 is 18. And then I multiply this denominator with this numerator, and I get 3 times 4 is 12. And I bring this sign up just to remember that I'm adding. And then I multiply the denominators, 3 and 18. Well, I don't know that in my head, so I'm going to work it out. 8 times 3 is 24. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 is 5. So I get 54. And then I add 18 and 2 and put that on top. So 18 and 12, excuse me. And I get 30. So my answer is 30/54. This is not simplified, but I can see that they're both even, so I can divide them both, the top and bottom, by 2. I get 15 over, I believe that's 27. Yes. And and let's see, is this simplified? No, it is not, because these are both divisible by 3. So 15 divided by 3 is 5. 27 divided by 3 is 9. So 2 different ways to get this answer of 5/9. This is the least common denominator way, and this one is cross multiplication. Okay, this one, a lot of kids really like this one because you don't have to do this stuff, but you do have to simplify a lot more at the end than you do doing this way. So I'll do one more example. One half minus 3/8. Now I'm going to start out with cross multiplication this time. And I'll zoom in a little bit for this part. Cross multiplication. So I multiply 8 times 1, and I get 8. And I multiply 2 times 3, and I get 6. And I multiply the 2 denominators, and I get 16. Now I'm subtracting, so I need to remember to subtract. Okay, so my denominator is 16. And then my numerator is going to be 8 minus 6, which is 2. And that's my answer, but I need to simplify it. These are both even, so I can divide the top and bottom by 2, and I get 1/8. And that is my final simplified answer. Now, if I use least common denominator, and I have 1/2 minus 3/8, first thing I need to do is find the least common denominator. If I want to do it the multiples way, I just write down 2 and 8, and I find the multiples and see which ones they have in common. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then 8. Oh, 8. 8 is the least common denominator. Or I could use the ladder method. 2 and 8 are my denominators. I put them in this bracket. They're both divisible by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 1 and 4 are only divisible by 1. And I put in L for least common denominator. And I multiply everything in that L. And 2 times 1 is 2, times 1 is 2, times 4 is 8. So my least common denominator is 8. 2 ways of doing it. So now I take my original fractions, 1 over 2, and I make them equal to blank over 8. 3 over 8 equals blank over 8. So 2 times 4 is 8, so I multiply the top by 4, and I get 4/8. Now 3/8, I don't need to change. That's just equal to 3/8. So now I have 4/8 minus 3/8, and that equals 1 over 8. Didn't have to simplify. Okay, let me zoom out. 2 different ways of doing the same problem. Hope that helps.